I've got the Dartzone Max Nitro Shot Stryker 2.0. This thing looks just so cool. Let's get this open and see what it's all about. So here we have the Stryker out of the box. First impressions right away, wow is it green. A really fun green, like a neon 90s Nickelodeon GAC green. There's also some really interesting printed technology design on the blaster. We can talk a little bit about that later. But the other thing, and I don't know if this has to do with the packaging and how it all fits, is that they showcase it with this mag adapter. And I think this is what we're going to talk about first. Now, a while ago, I don't know if you remember this blaster, but Dartzone released the Tomcat, and it was a really interesting blaster that used a drum, and it was really cool. It was effective, and it was great. The issue is that it flares out of the blaster quite a bit. It just makes it wider. And what a lot of people did for that blaster in particular was 3D print parts so that it could accept magazines. And when Dartzone was designing the Stryker 2.0, it looks like they just took inspiration from the community and what they did and just built an injection molded part inside the Stryker 2.0 box that allowed you to do both. Now, to remove this magazine adapter and use the included drum, you have to prime the blaster back, which is something that we haven't seen in a very long time because of skinny pushers and all that, but you're gonna see why in just a second. I have to hit the mag release one more time and then just pull down. Now what you see here is the whole apparatus out, and this reason right here is why you have to remove it with it primed, because I mean, no matter how skinny the pusher is, you just can't get it out of a closed system. But the other thing that you'll notice too is that there's a lot of registration marks around this blaster so that it pairs nicely with the feed on this mag adapter part. Now the thing about the drum is that if you want to load it, this orange part here, it needs to move all the way out. And it might take a little bit of wiggling, a little bit of convincing, but eventually you can see that it sticks out just enough so that it can fit inside this little retention well right here, specifically for the disc. So let's do that. And let's see how well this fits in. Well, that was super easy. I like that. Now, similar to the magazine adapter piece right here, when you have this primed forward, right, so this blaster is now active, the whole pusher mechanism is going to go through this so that it makes sure that the dart is indexed in the blaster. So if I wanted to remove this, we'll do that process, but if I wanted to remove this, then you have to prime it back. But for now, let's just fire a dart out of the thing, right? Woo-hoo-hoo. But let's do the whole situation here again. So if we wanted to switch to magazines, we're gonna do that. We're gonna pull down. Oh, that was a much easier pull than the mag adapter, because we're not contending with all these little extra clips here. It just kind of fell down. This is a nice feel right here. So if you don't hit the paddle on the mag release, these little prongs are gonna stick out, and it's gonna make it very difficult to get this piece back in. So this is quite the operation to do. But once you have it down, it will go faster. That's really interesting though. There's a lot required for you to switch in between these two styles of play. So what I would recommend to you is, if you're getting one of these blasters, is that you pick one of the styles and then stick to it if the game types allow for it, if that makes any sense. Just knowing swapping between the two different styles is going to take some work on your end. So we covered the standout feature, the swapping between the different two play styles in terms of how you load the darts, right? But let's take a look at the overall blaster, because I think there's some really cool things happening here and we need to talk about them. First is this printing design on here. I think Dartzone has done a really great job with this. Like some of the Adventure Force Pro stuff, I feel some of the details of the blaster got hidden because of the printing on top. But this, the Stryker 2.0, accentuates the detail with the printing technology. It looks like almost like a turbine system or something very futuristic with it. I think it looks great. And it accentuates the details of the blaster. And this should be the template for any sort of design on the blaster using this printing technology from now on. We have the Picatinny rail on top that allows you to slide the sights any which way you want. And then we also have some tack rails on the side which have a specific purpose, because included in the box is one of the Dartzone scar barrels, which is a really great inclusion. And not only that, but it's got one end that accepts the Dartzone barrel diameter, and then if you have one that's just slightly larger, you can use this end. You just flip it around for other blasters. This is an adaptable part that goes across different blasters. This is a very cartoonish blaster to begin with, but if you want just an extra little bit of safety, you can put this big, giant orange muzzle on the top there that just gives it that extra little bit, signifying to everybody around that, yes, in fact, this is a toy. And we have our now essentially standard buffer tube style stock for the dartzone products. This one in particular, though, only includes the buffer tube. It doesn't allow you to remove the buffer tube to get access to an end strike attachment point. It's just this. Like many other dartzone blasters, if you want to adjust the spring load, it's accessed by that tiny little screw right there. So I love the look of this blaster. It looks phenomenal. I think it's a great style. Like, this is a very comfortable blaster. You can shoulder it rather well. I'm pushing against it very hard, and like it's not collapsing in. Sturdy. This is a sturdy blaster. Now that we've talked about the mechanics behind the blaster, how it all looks, the different parts and pieces and accessories that come with it, I think we just got to get some darts to this thing, test it out, put it through its paces, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. How does that sound? We've got the magazine here. Let's see if the skinny pusher system allows us just to do this without priming it back, because we're not swapping between different play styles. We're just using a magazine. Okay. Oh, well, that doesn't keep it in there very tight at all, does it? Let's try that again. Huh. Well, it works. Like, it does index it. It's just if you pull on it too much, you're gonna rip the mag out too. So this should work. Let's go. Woohoo! That feels good. Yeah. How many do I got? I think that's it. One thing I want to show you is if you didn't like this forward mag paddle, I've just default to this because it's comfortable to me. There's also one that you kick out right here, well, I guess pull back, and then you can pull out as well. So it's nice. It's got different play styles. So that's the magazine. Feels very good. Feels very familiar. But what I'm curious about is just how well it interoperates between very traditional magazine to the drum, because the drum being a cylinder has to index and get the darts in place. So we got to get the drum. As I load these, you can see that there's a little tiny retention clip at the back. I could, if I wanted to, load them this way. I think I'm gonna be hurting the darts, or at least putting some creases in there. I mean, they don't feel pain, but it's just not gonna have very good longevity. These are the Nitro Shot Plus darts, and you know, they kind of seem like bamboo darts with the ruby dart head. Dartzone's trying a lot of stuff with darts, and I really appreciate that. And when you're loading this, again, just know because you have just a small retention point, you can push these out a little too far. That's gonna cause some problems, so just be very intentional when you're loading this. Plastic on it seems okay. Like many other drums that I've used for dart blasters, I think the issue, or at least the potential downside, is like this little lip right here. If this gets caught on something, if it gets smashed on something, it often dents. And then what you have to do then is like get a clippers and just clip that part out. Then there's a sharp part. It's a whole thing. So just be careful with the drums. But I think I've got more than enough darts here. We got to load this up. It just kind of locks into place. And if I wanted to pull it out, I can, but it takes a little bit of force. It's what you want from a drum situation. And again, remember, you have to prime it down so that you have the pusher out of the way. So now we're all set up for the drum. Let's see how this does. Oh, did I go the wrong way here? Nope, we're good. Haha, that feels good. All right. I know what this blaster feels like firing it because you saw with the magazine. What I'm curious about is if it has slam fire, because I think that makes the drum mag a little more effective. But it's also a potential downside because if you slam fire too fast, does it all get caught up in itself? So we're gonna test that right here, right now. Woo-hoo-hoo. Nope, that feels really good. And I think by the spring load alone, you're not gonna be going crazy with this thing. This is a 14 and up blaster. That's something to really make note of. So that if you're putting this in the hands of a smaller kid, just don't, because the power behind it is probably a little too much for them. And also they're gonna have a bad time with it because they're not gonna have the required strength to prime this back without like going like on the ground and like trying to like prime the thing, and it would just be terrible for them. So get age-appropriate blasters for people in your life. That's just my PSA today. So inevitably, we are going to get some comparisons with the Adventure Force Nexus Pro X. because they're both made by Dartzone, and they're essentially the same blaster for different retailers. The Adventure Force stuff being for Walmart, and the Dartzone Max brand being for Target. So in the same year, we essentially have a similar blaster appearing in two different shapes and forms based on whatever big box retailer you shop at. So the question becomes, are they different enough? If you're somebody into the performance level of foam dart blasting, or if you're somebody a collector like me, are they different enough that you feel that it's a unique blaster? And I think what they did with the Stryker 2.0 was remarkable, because they took some things from the community, what they were doing with some of their other Dartzone Max blasters, and incorporated it in with the Stryker. While I feel like this blaster is inherently drum-based, it was an interesting choice that Dartzone included the mag adapter as the default on the packaging. It engages with somebody who buys this blaster to try out the different modes, because I think if it were reversed, if you had the drum in the blaster and there was just a random piece of plastic, if somebody didn't read the instructions or watched really cool YouTube videos that you subscribe to, they wouldn't necessarily know what it was for. So forcing that decision to put the mag adapter on first allows the person to interact with the blaster and try it out in different configurations the way that it works best for them. Regardless if you go drum or if you go the mag adapter route, you're gonna have a very performant blaster. This does a great job at getting foam darts down to the other end of the room as fast as possible. And it looks good doing it. And again, it looks like that 90s Nickelodeon GAC green. I like it. This is another performance blaster in the books for Dartzone, and they do a really good job with this one. It pairs very well with the Venom Pro on a fundamental level. This is a spring-powered, performance-based blaster that is similar to the Nexus Pro X. The main difference here is if you like the drum or not. So it's really in your hands, depending on if you like the Nexus Pro X, which is just all magazines all the time, or if you like the Stryker 2.0, which gives you the option of play choice. Either way, you really can't go wrong, and it comes fundamentally down to a personal choice. For me, I'm gonna keep the drum on it. I think it's just fun. I think it's cool. It sets it apart from the Nexus Pro X. With that, that's all I know about the Dartzone Max Stryker 2.0. If you like this video, please consider subscribing or following along, whatever it takes to get more videos, because we're gonna be talking about more blasters. But if you like action, if you like toys in general, you're not gonna wanna miss some other things that I talk about. Pop culture, collectibles, and also action figures. All kinds of cool stuff, because all that stuff is just fun. All right, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.